That's another episode of the Inside Voice podcast. Thank you so much for being here. We are getting down to the wire with 2025. I know it doesn't feel like it because it's still September, but I will say that this is definitely the time of year that goes by so fast. And, last week we talked about living in the now. We talked about how we can get so wrapped up in what's coming that we miss out on what's happening around us. And I think the analogy that I used was like, your destination might be Disneyland, and that's great. It's going to be so fun. But at the end of the day, you still have a drive to get to Disneyland. I grew up going to Disneyland, and when I was a kid, it was like the drive to Disneyland was so long. You know, like I grew up in San Diego, Disneyland was in Anaheim, and it took a minute for us to get there. A very beautiful, scenic minute to get there. And as a kid, of course, I didn't care about how long it took to go somewhere. We needed to be there now. You know what I mean? But I think going back, if I were to go back and make that drive again as an adult, I would probably like really look at what's happening around me and reminisce about different parts of that journey, different parts of the road. I think I'd be looking a little more at my surroundings than I did when I was a kid. But just encouraging you that as we move forward in 2025, as we're now in the final third of the year, just encouraging you to not be so caught up in like, oh, I can't wait for the next football game, or I can't wait for Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas, but to really be here and now, and enjoy what's happening here and now, and not wait for like the big things to make life special, if that makes any sense. I wanted to share something with you as we are in this time of, lots to look forward to, but also embracing where we're at right now. I don't want you to miss out on you. There's a couple of reasons why I want to talk about this. One in particular is there's a lot of me, and I think we all feel this somehow, some way, especially since we all went through the pandemic. We all lived through that awful time in life. We kind of feel like we're missing part of ourselves, or we missed out on a part of our life. I also feel that with losing my mom and taking so long to deal with that loss, that I feel like I was kind of in hiding for a little bit. And there were extenuating circumstances that I think kept me from really diving into losing my mom, and the grief that went with it, and mourning her. And a lot of it was just me putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and saying, I'm fine. And it wasn't until I went to therapy last year that I realized, oh man, like I needed to do this a while ago. And the more that I let time go by without dealing with those feelings, the more I was losing out on myself. And when I look back at these last couple of years, there's a big part of me that feels like I didn't allow Jess to be Jess. I was in hiding, I guess is the best way that I can describe it, or the way that I have described it to people. And I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I just want to live life. I want to be me. I want to have fun. I want to be silly, and I want to be vibrant, and I want to do this podcast and put it out there and, explore these goals and these dreams that I have for myself. I think that's one of the things that was so difficult for me prior to going to therapy, is I had shut down. And it's probably why I stopped doing the podcast, for a good extended period of time. Back in 2023, it's like I stopped dreaming. I stopped goal casting. I stopped thinking of what could be. And that was not me. That's not who I am in general. And another reason why I want to talk about this is because when I was in therapy last year, I had this epiphany. I had this moment with God in therapy, and God's been a part of my life since I was a child. Like, I remember being a kid, saying the prayer, accepting Jesus into my heart, and just ever since then, like, knowing that he's been a part of my life. And I had this moment with him because I knew that if I was going to therapy, he had to go with me. And he was calling me to go to therapy. But I remember having this moment. My therapist had me go through my life from when I was a kid as if it were a movie. And she had me do this twice. And the second time that she had me do it, I remember distinctly seeing in my mind moments of my childhood, but Jesus in those moments with me. And it was so cool to know that like I was never alone in my life. He was always there with me. But one of the things that he said to me that I heard in therapy as I was going through this like movie portrayal of my life was, Jess, I delight in you. Even just saying that out loud right now, it's gonna make me cry. Because I think for the last couple of years, and maybe this has been the same for you, as we think about the hardships that we've been through, it's hard to see how God would delight in us, you know? I want to encourage you to see yourself like that because he did make you, he did create you, he does love you. I want to share something with you that it's silly, but it's a reminder to me that like God shows up everywhere. Like he will find you and he will get a message to you. And there's this girl on social media that I just happened to come across on Explore or something like that on Instagram. Her handle is at Kendall_in_Kentucky. And she shared this. She basically just shared Avril Lavigne's song Complicated. And on the video she wrote, someone said, listen to this as though Jesus was singing it to you. And I'm telling you, man, he shows up in these ways that you don't expect, and he's there, and it's beautiful, and it hits you, and I'm going to try to get through this without crying, but I wanted to read those lyrics to you. You can go listen to the song. Like, please do. If you have to pause this podcast and go listen to it right now, do it, because there's something about listening to it and really feeling like God is singing this to you. Again, through the mouth of Avril Lavigne. It's wild to think about, and I hope this isn't sacrilegious, but it hit me, and so I wanted to share this with you as I read the lyrics to this song, which came out in 2002, by the way. I think I was in middle school. I remember this song, like we all sang it, and years down the road it got super annoying, but then to now listen to it through this new lens, it's mind-blowing. So as I read these lyrics to you, I want you to not hear my voice, but hear the voice of the Lord. Whether you're a believer or not, I want you to think of it that way because I think it's extremely powerful. So I won't read the opening. Well, she goes, life's like this. You remember this, right? Okay, we'll get into the first verse. I'll read the verses and the chorus for you. So again, this is Avril Lavigne, Complicated. I want you to listen to this as if Jesus is talking to you right now, okay? Chill out, what you yelling for? Lay back, it's all been done before. And if you could only let it be, you will see. I like you the way you are when we're driving in your car and you're talking to me one-on-one, but you become someone else around everyone else. You're watching your back like you can't relax. You try to be cool. You look like a fool to me. Tell me, why did you have to go and make things so complicated? I see the way you're acting like you're somebody else. Gets me frustrated. Life's like this. You fall and you crawl and you break and you take what you get and you turn it into honesty. And promise me, I'm never going to find you fake it. You come over unannounced, dress up like you're something else. Where you are and where it's at, you see, you're making me laugh out loud when you strike your pose. Take off all your preppy clothes. You know you're not fooling anyone when you become somebody else around everybody else. You're watching your back like you can't relax. You try to be cool. You look like a fool to me. Hearing that, it makes me think, God made me a certain way. And God made you a certain way. And he's with us in every single moment, and in this song, he's sitting in the car. And as I was listening to the song, I thought, yeah, that I think about him just, he's sitting in the car with me and we're talking. And this is very real to me because this is something that I do. Sometimes I don't listen to music. I don't listen to a podcast. I just talk to Jesus and I say, hey, come sit in the car with me and let's talk. So I think about him sitting in the car with me, going back to what I heard in therapy last year, him just reminding me, like, I delight in you. And it's like he's reminding me of all these things that he has made me that make me me. He's reminding me of all the things that he put in me. And at the same time, he's listening to me and he's like, who's this person? Who is this person that is trying to be everything else but what I have called you to be? And it's like he's sitting there with me as I'm, just like in this song, it's like he's sitting there with me and it's like he's reminding me, hey, I made you. I made you smart. I made you funny. I made you clever and silly and adventurous. And I made you filled with wonder. I made you perfect. And yet I see the way that you act around other people. I see the way that you try to be somebody else. I see the way that you are seeking validation from other people by being something that you're not. I see you taking all these wonderful things that I've put in you and I've made you to be, and it's like you're hiding them. You're covering them in preppy clothes. You're covering them in clothing and makeup and hair and things that are not you. Why are you hiding these things? Why do you think that the things that I gave you are not good enough or they don't matter? This is like, it's wild to me to read those lyrics and to listen to the song again and just hear it in a different light, to hear it as if God is saying those things to me. And again, I'm sure Avril Lavigne was singing about some person she was dating and, they make things complicated. That was like the phrase back when I was in school. It's like, oh, it's just complicated with that person, like we haven't figured it out yet. I think they call it talking now. It was just complicated back in the day. But to hear this as if God is talking to me and I do have a relationship with him. So I guess the relationship aspect sticks, but it's like, why are you trying so hard to be somebody else when I've already made you perfect? I've already made you this beautiful, wonderful being. And, I think to scripture and how it talks about he knew us in our mother's womb. He formed us in our mother's womb. He was there at the very, very beginning, and he has a plan for us. That's also scripture, to prosper us, to not harm us, to give us a future and a hope. Like, he's created such a wonderful life for us. And it's interesting how we complicate things. There's that word again. We try so hard to be something that we think we should be when God's just telling us and calling us to be who we are, It's interesting, like he's made us who we are. He's created plans for us that are for us, to prosper us, to give us a future and a hope. And I think what's interesting is like the epiphany that he's given me as of late is it's like, I made you this way. I've laid out these plans for your life. Why do you think you don't fit into those plans? Why do you think that I would make you a certain way and then give you an impossible plan for your life that you could never attain? Or why do you think that I would have such a terrible plan for you, yet make you so wonderful? It's like, no, he made us a certain way to fit into the plan that he has for us. So why are we not standing in what he's called us to do? Gosh, we hold ourselves back so much from so many things that are meant for us in our life. Think about this podcast. I started the podcast years ago. It was awesome. And I enjoyed it. I walked away from it. I feel like the timing is so much more ordained this time, but also like I've grown and God has done so much work in my life to get me to a point where it's like now when we're doing the podcast, it's like, I'm made for this. I fit into this. This is the plan that he has for me. He made it so clear that this was what I was supposed to be doing. Why would I ever think that I wasn't I wasn't built for it. You know what I mean? That, gosh, we have so much that we want to do in our lives. I know it. I know it's in you. There's things that you're thinking about right now that you're like, I think God told me to do that. I'm willing to bet he did. Stop thinking that you weren't made for those things. Another way that people put it is, if it's for you, it'll be yours. If it's made for you, it's yours. Nobody else can take it away from you. Nobody else can step into it. It is for you. And God has made you for it, and God has prepared you for it, and he's continuing to prepare you for it, and he will continue to mold you and shape you as you are in it as well. Gosh, this was just like a radical epiphany to me. And to think about, I'll say it again, if God has made you a certain way, I don't even want to say it that way. If God has made you and God has a plan for you, why do you think you don't fit into the plan? Why do we sell ourselves short? Why do we think, oh, no, he wants somebody else for that? Oh, no. Like, when I become this, then I'll fit into the plan. No, God has made you exactly who you are. And where you're at right now is exactly where he has you. So go for it. Whatever it is, like, stop waiting to be something else, become something else. Stop looking behind your back like you can't relax. Rest in the fact that God has ordained you for these big, beautiful things that he has put on your heart. I don't think that he is a God that gives us things, desires for things, and a calling for things that we're not meant to have. You know, I don't think that he's a terrible God. I don't think that he is wicked like that. I think that he does have a plan for us, and it's our job to just step into it and get going, you know? Going back to our Begin Again series that I started with this summer, oftentimes we put things aside and we put things back on the shelf because we have convinced ourselves that we didn't hear from God. It wasn't really what he was saying. We've convinced ourselves that we are not good enough because we're at the beginning, or we're starting over again. And if it was from God, I wouldn't have failed in the first place. And it's like, no, that's not the case. He's got a plan for you. And we can talk about purpose, and we can talk about, what's my purpose in life and what am I supposed to do? I think more often than not, it's like God's more concerned with like who you are than what specifically you're doing. You know what I mean? And going back to those lyrics from the Avril Lavigne song and thinking about him sitting in the car just being like, I don't know where the disconnect was. I don't know why you chose not to just be who you are and decided that becoming somebody else was going to be the better option for you. You know, we're trying really hard to mold ourselves into what we think we're supposed to be. And we have all these outside influences that are telling us, be this, do that. You should be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. You know, we see it everywhere. We see it in the shows we watch, the movies we see, the music we listen to. We see it on social media. We see it with our friends. We see it with celebrities. And we've just made it up in our minds, this person that we're supposed to be. And once we become that person, then we can start stepping into purpose. But I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think we're built and equipped with the things that God has given us to carry out the things that God has for us. You know what I mean? So I want to encourage you to listen to that song from Avril Lavigne and just think about it. You know, think about how we've tried to, conform ourselves into something that was never meant to be. Like, it was never who we were supposed to be, you know? And it's interesting, like, the more that we try to become somebody else around everybody else, it's like those are the moments that we trip. Those are the moments that we fall. Those are the moments that we end up crawling our way through life because we decided to put on shoes that didn't fit us. We decided to walk on a path that was never on our map. We decided to load up the backpack with a lot of stuff that we were never supposed to carry, you know? And that's what's hindering us. That's what's stopping us from pursuing what we're supposed to be doing on this earth. And you know, I'm a firm believer that our main objective in life is just to seek God, to pursue a relationship with him, you know, to commune and to do life with Jesus. And you know, it says that in the Bible, seek first the kingdom and its righteousness, like seek God and his righteousness. Like that's what we're supposed to be doing. And if we can just get up and do that every day, the rest of it's gravy, right? The rest of it's easy money because he will lead us. He will direct our paths, you know? And he'll show us who we are. That's been a prayer for me so much. You know, getting back into doing this podcast again. And I shared with you last week that I had set some goals for myself for the next 10 years, which I hadn't done in a while. And it was kind of fun to do that again. My prayer is just show me who I am, you know? I think about this podcast and I think about how it's called the Inside Voice Podcast because it's like I'm seeking who God has made me, who he has placed inside of this body, and how I can let more of that person out to further his kingdom, to do what he has called me to do on this earth. You know, we get so wrapped up in the motions of it, of like, what am I actually supposed to be doing? What job am I supposed to be in? Where am I supposed to live? And those are all great things to go to the Lord with. But I think more often than not, he's more concerned about our hearts. He's more concerned about who we are, and that our eyes are focused on him, and that we are leaning into who he has created us to be. Gosh, that simplifies things so much, because if we can just fall more in love with him and seek more of him, it's like, let him direct our path, you know? He'll show us where to go. He'll tell us what to pack for the journey. He'll make sure that we don't stumble and fall and end up crawling through this life. He'll hold our hand every step of the way, even if the path gets tough, even if it gets, you know, tricky and sticky, and even if it gets a little messy or painful. Like he's there, you know, as long as we keep our eyes on him, like everything else is just gravy. So again, listen to that song. It's interesting. There's been quite a few songs as of late that they're not Christian by any stretch of the imagination. They're not worship songs, but it's like I listen to them and I'm like, I can hear you, God. I can hear you. You're speaking to me in unconventional ways, don't get me wrong, but in ways that lead me closer to him, which I think is really, really neat. So I guess if, you know, I was so excited just to share those lyrics with you and have you hear them and apply them to your life. I think at the end of the day, whether you have a relationship with Jesus or not, stop complicating things. Stop overthinking things. Stop comparing yourself. Stop wasting your life away trying to fit into something that was never yours in the first place. Because what's for you is beautiful. That's the other thing, is like we think, well, this person has this and it's big and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. What I have obviously isn't as big and wonderful, or it's not as ordained by God or set apart by God or whatever, because it doesn't look a certain way. But I think that God has, like, and I don't think this, I believe this because it says it in scripture, like he has a plan for us, and it's a plan to prosper us, to give us a future and a hope. And the more that we try to fit into a plan that he has for other people, the less satisfied we're going to be in life. So I think if I were to give you homework this week, because I'm giving myself this homework as well, just lean into the beautiful, wonderful, capable, imaginative, loving person that he has made you to be. Think about him sitting in the car with you, just delighting in who you are. Think about those moments in your life. You know, the car resonated so much with me because of, like, that's one of the times that I'm by myself and I enjoy a road trip by myself. Also times when I'm in the gym, you know, that's a time that I'm alone. And so just inviting God into those moments and thinking about those moments where it is just you and him, and the noise is quieted and you don't have all the distractions around you. Like, get into those moments and seek out, like, who he's made you to be. Ask him who you are. Ask him to reveal the beautiful things that he put inside of you, the personality traits, the desires, the dreams, the imaginations, the creativity. Like, ask him to reveal that stuff to you so that you can pursue the things that he has for you and step into and lean into this life that I know is for you and that is so beautiful, whatever it looks like. I think you've got an idea in your head right now of maybe it's what you should be doing, not in a comparison, not in a, well, because Susie down the street is doing this, I should be doing it. No. It's more of like, I know that there's a calling on my life. I just haven't stepped into it. I know that I've heard from God on this. I just haven't done anything with it. I want to encourage you to just lean into it. I told you that God made it very clear that this podcast was going to come back and that I was going to be pursuing it and doing it. And it's been such a joy. But also, like, I had to just get in and start doing it, even if it was messy. You know what I mean? And just allow him to lead me and guide me, but also trust the fact that, like, I don't have to do this alone. And that's a great feeling. I don't know how people go through life without Jesus. I can't do any of this without him. I can't do this podcast without him. But yeah, I believe that God has made us all so unique and wonderful and beautiful. And somewhere along the way, the world tells us otherwise. And it's in those moments where it's like really still, it's really quiet, and it's just you and it's just God, that we're reminded of what he's put in us, that we're reminded of the beautiful person that he has made us, And I'm so thankful that I had that moment in therapy of just kind of like replaying my entire life and seeing him every step of the way. I want to encourage you to do the same. Think back in your life, think back through the things that you've been through, and try to see him in every single one of those moments. That was such a beautiful thing for me. And just to hear him say that he delights in me, I want to pass that on to you. He truly delights in you. He really, really does, because he made you. And how could he make something and not delight in it? You know what I mean? So yeah, I want you to lean into that. Remember that as you go through life. Get more concerned with becoming the person that God has created you to be. And I think it's going to make what the do is in your life, what you're supposed to be doing, what you're supposed to be pursuing, what you're supposed to be building. I think that makes it so much simpler. Oftentimes, I think we get so wrapped up in results and followers and progress and hitting those goals that we forget that this is such a beautiful life in itself is just such a beautiful experience, and this goes back to like what we talked about last week of, we're so quick to be like, I can't wait till this happens, or I can't wait till I'm here. And it's like, we may never get there. So let's really lean into what we're doing right now. Let's really lean into who we are. And it's going to make the rest of life and the rest of what you're pursuing and the rest of the coulds, what I should be doings in life, the coulds and the woulds, it's going to make them so much easier, So I guess if there's any encouragement that I could leave you with, it's like, stop faking it. Stop showing up in the way that you think you're supposed to show up. Stop showing up in the way that everybody else seems to be doing it. You know what I mean? I know that, I rag on social media a lot. It is a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But it's also something that just leads to so much comparison in life. And again, like the Avril Lavigne song goes, you're trying to button things up to look a certain way based on what you've seen on social media or based on what you've seen and perceived around you. But I want you to be authentic. I want you to be who you are and not live your life the way you think would be pleasing to others. I think the more that we lean into the way that God has made us, it's not just that he delights in that because he's made you the way that you are and he loves to see you lean into that. But I think it's also a way that we worship him and we show him thanks and gratitude of like, yeah, thank you for making me the way that I am. I remember distinctly last year having a moment of complete breakdown, I'll be honest with you, but just being thankful that God made me the way that I am. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. I can try to appease any crowd or room that I'm in, and it can be exhausting. I can adapt to any crowd or room that I'm in, and it can be exhausting. And growing up, I had a hard time accepting every part of me. I knew that there were parts of my life that I excelled in, but there were also other parts of my life that I was very negative toward. And getting older and, they say that you become more confident in who you are. I think we just become more attuned with who we are and we fall in love with that person and, we fall in love with the person that God has made us. And that's why we kind of become more confident. We kind of just start saying, I don't care what people think, I'm going to live my life the way that I live my life. Don't waste your life trying to fit into a box that the world has told you you're supposed to be in. There's even that phrase of like, don't put God in a box. God don't do boxes, okay? He made you a certain way. He has delighted in the way that he has made you. Don't try to make yourself fit in somewhere else when God is telling you, I've got the plan for you. This is where you fit. So lean into it. Let's go, So yeah, this week I think oftentimes there's just so much noise around us. And I know I've talked about this a lot in the podcast, but TV, social media, people, music, podcast, everything. Like there's just constant noise all the time. And so again, I want to encourage you to just carve out some moments to just be quiet. I think it's in the stillness and in the quiet that we hear God's voice, more so than ever. But also I think it's when we get a lot of clarity. And maybe it's probably because we're hearing God's voice, but it's like pausing and thinking and sitting for just a second before you're on to the next thing and scrolling to the next video and distracting yourself with this and moving on to that. It's like, if we can just carve out those little moments just to, how beautiful are those moments, How beautiful to invite God into those moments and just tell him like, hey, I want to know who you made me to be because I've gotten really wrapped up in trying to be somebody else. Gosh, I think that's going to give you so much clarity in your life, so much confidence in your life. As I was putting this podcast together, I thought how often we don't put things on social media or we don't share things because we're worried about what other people will think. You realize there's like billions of social media accounts out there and there's like billions of people out there. I'm willing to bet that what you want to share is not that silly and not that crazy. And you should. You should show up in your life and in the lives of other people exactly how God made you. Think about that. Let that marinate for a little bit. Think about God sitting in the car with you, just being like, I made you to be all of this, and I delight in everything that I've made in you, and yet you're hiding yourself. Stop hiding yourself. So again, I want to encourage you as we bring this to a close to get quiet a few times this week and just ask God who you are. And if you don't know Jesus, my prayer is that you will find Jesus by doing that. But also, think about the ways that you have molded yourself into something else that you don't even recognize the person that's in the mirror anymore. Get back to who you are and ultimately get back to who God created you to be. Make it a good week for yourself. I'll see you next week.